Why are some men respected, admired, and even desired by women, while others are left in the friend zone? It's a question that many men wrestle with, but few ever fully understand. There's a hidden psychological truth at play, one that, if you can uncover it, has the power to radically transform the way you view relationships and the way others view you. In this video, we're diving into the dark psychological truths that few dare to confront, truths that could change everything about how you interact with women. It's not about charm or superficial tricks. This is something deeper, something rooted in the very fabric of human psychology. At the core of these dynamics lies the philosophy of Arthur Schopenhauer, a thinker who saw love and attraction not as some romantic fairy tale, but as a biological trick. According to Schopenhauer, love isn't about emotional connection or mutual respect. It's about reproduction, survival, and our biological imperative to select the best mate. Modern relationships, as we know them, are governed by these primal forces, often beneath the surface of conscious thought. So why do some men thrive in the realm of attraction and relationships, while others struggle to get noticed, or worse, get stuck in the friend zone? The answer lies in understanding this hidden truth. It's time to stop thinking of attraction as something whimsical and start seeing it as a complex, biologically driven game. A game that you can learn to play, not just survive. What if you could change your approach entirely and unlock the key to commanding respect and admiration from women, without resorting to tactics or games? Stick around as we break down Schopenhauer's timeless insights and how they relate to today's relationships. You may just realize that the truth behind why women are attracted to some men and not others isn't as mysterious as you think. The power of the dark psychological truth. Schopenhauer's philosophy on love isn't what you expect. It's not about grand romantic gestures, soulful connections, or finding someone who completes you. Instead, Schopenhauer argues that love is biologically driven, a primal instinct programmed into us by nature, not some magical force of fate. According to Schopenhauer, love, as we experience it, isn't about emotional connection or romantic ideals. It's about reproduction. It's about survival. Attraction, in its most primal form, is rooted in biological imperatives. Our brains, though unconscious of it, are constantly calculating one thing: reproductive potential. When we find ourselves drawn to someone, it's not simply because of their personality, their humor, or their kindness. On a deeper, subconscious level, we are evaluating whether they can provide good genetic material to pass on to future generations. Schopenhauer's view shifts the romantic narrative from something mystical and idealized to something far more evolutionary, a cold, calculated mechanism designed by nature for the continuation of life. For many men, this concept shatters the illusion of love and attraction. They spend years believing that the right woman will appear and that romance and connection will grow organically. The confusion most men experience in the dating game arises because they are working off a false premise. They think attraction is about who they are emotionally, about being the nice guy or the perfect partner. But Schopenhauer would argue attraction has very little to do with these qualities. Women, driven by their own subconscious instincts, are evaluating your genetic value, your social status, your ability to provide security. That's the deeper truth behind why some men seem to effortlessly attract women, while others are left to wonder why they're constantly friend-zoned. This realization can be both liberating and unsettling. It means that attraction isn't as personal as we've been led to believe. It's not about being good enough or following the rules of romance. It's about your evolutionary status, the signals you project, and your ability to meet the subconscious needs that women are looking for in a mate. And if you've ever wondered why a woman might be interested in someone who seems to lack what you believe are essential qualities, this explanation sheds light on the deeper psychological mechanisms at play. Schopenhauer's view is unsettling because it removes the magic from relationships and places them squarely within the realm of biology. But here's the truth. Once you understand this, you can begin to shape the forces that drive attraction instead of being a passive participant in a game you don't understand. You no longer need to chase love. You need to become someone capable of naturally attracting it by aligning with your deepest biological imperatives. The real question now is, are you ready to break free from the confusion and unlock the true nature of attraction? Schopenhauer's dark reality about attraction. At the core of narcissistic behavior lies a deep, unconscious wound: ego inflation. Schopenhauer's philosophy sheds light on how narcissists use ego inflation as a defense mechanism to protect themselves from the overwhelming emptiness and shame they feel inside. The inflated ego acts as a facade, creating the illusion of superiority and control to mask their internal inadequacies. This defensive mechanism prevents them from confronting their true self, the shadow, as Jung would call it, where their suppressed fears and unacknowledged weaknesses reside. Ego inflation is not an expression of confidence or genuine self-love, but rather a desperate attempt to fill the void within. It is a fragile armor, constantly in need of validation to maintain its form. This is why narcissists constantly seek admiration, recognition, and praise. They are addicted to the external affirmation that temporarily patches up the emptiness they feel inside. It is the only way they can stave off the psychological discomfort of confronting their own inadequacies. But as long as the ego is inflated, the narcissist remains disconnected from their true self, and they are trapped in a cycle of superficiality. Narcissism is driven by three core psychological drives: control, validation, and confusion. Each of these forces plays a crucial role in how the narcissist manipulates and dominates relationships. 1. Control. Narcissists are terrified of vulnerability and anything that might expose their inner self. To protect their fragile sense of superiority, they must control others, dictating how people see them and what emotions they provoke. By controlling their partner's perceptions, they maintain the illusion of power and superiority. In romantic relationships, this often manifests as emotional manipulation or gaslighting, distorting reality to keep the other person uncertain of what is real. 2. Validation. The narcissist's sense of self-worth is entirely dependent on external validation. Without it, they feel insignificant and worthless. They need admiration and adoration to validate their existence, which is why they constantly seek praise, whether through their accomplishments, appearance, or any other superficial means. This validation serves as the only antidote to the inner emptiness they experience. 3. Confusion. One of the most insidious tools in a narcissist's arsenal is psychological fog, a manipulative tactic designed to confuse and disorient their victims. Narcissists will often use tactics like gaslighting, shifting blame, and creating emotional chaos to keep their partners in a constant state of confusion. This keeps the victim off balance, unsure of their own perceptions and emotions, which in turn makes it easier for the narcissist to control the narrative. By distorting reality and sowing confusion, the narcissist maintains dominance in the relationship, ensuring that their needs are met without ever addressing the underlying emotional void that drives their behavior. Understanding this psychological fog is crucial to breaking free from narcissistic manipulation. It's essential to stop feeding into the confusion and distortion, because as long as you engage with the narcissist's twisted reality, you remain ensnared in their control. By recognizing the manipulation, you take away the narcissist's power to keep you trapped in their world. Refusing to participate in their games of confusion is the first step toward regaining your emotional clarity and breaking free from their influence. Schopenhauer's dark reality about attraction lies in the fact that narcissists are not interested in real, reciprocal relationships. They are driven by their need for validation, control, and to maintain a facade of perfection. Their attraction to others is rooted in their need to perpetuate their own delusion of grandeur, rather than a true connection based on love or emotional honesty. The truth, then, is that their emotional and psychological dysfunction prevents them from experiencing authentic attraction, and instead they continue to chase the fleeting validation that reinforces their false sense of self. Understanding this dynamic gives you the insight to navigate their manipulation and protect your emotional well-being. Schopenhauer's powerful insight: conscious detachment. To free yourself from the toxic grip of narcissistic manipulation, you must first recognize and understand the unconscious dynamics at play. Schopenhauer's philosophy, paired with Carl Jung's concept of conscious detachment, offers a powerful framework for breaking free from narcissistic control. The key is to stop participating in the narcissist's projection. By withdrawing emotional energy, you essentially deny the narcissist the fuel they need to sustain their manipulation. This is where conscious detachment becomes your most powerful tool. Jung's concept of conscious detachment teaches that, to protect your own emotional sovereignty, you must stop internalizing the projections that narcissists place upon you. Projection happens when the narcissist projects their own unacknowledged flaws onto you, accusing you of behaviors they themselves are guilty of. When you engage with these projections, you unwittingly validate their distorted perception of you and feed their ego. The first step in breaking this cycle is to stop participating. You do this by mentally and emotionally detaching from the narcissist's narrative. Let's take a real-life example. Imagine being in a relationship with a narcissistic partner who constantly accuses you of being selfish, even when you know you're being thoughtful and considerate. Instead of defending yourself or getting upset, you apply conscious detachment. You calmly acknowledge that the accusation is not about you, but rather a reflection of their internal issues. You refuse to engage in the emotional turmoil they're trying to create. By doing this, you break the pattern of manipulation. You stop playing the game. Psychological consequences. When you withdraw emotional energy and stop validating the narcissist's projections, they will inevitably escalate. Narcissists thrive on emotional reactions. They rely on your engagement to feel powerful. When they lose that control, it triggers their deepest fear: vulnerability. They cannot stand the idea of being exposed or losing their illusion of superiority. This is when you'll see them ramp up their tactics, using guilt, anger, or manipulation to provoke you back into the cycle. But this escalation is actually a sign that your detachment is working. When the narcissist reacts, it means that they're losing the power they once held over you. The more you maintain your emotional independence, the more the narcissist will realize that they can no longer manipulate you. Over time, this withdrawal of energy diminishes their control, forcing them to either confront their own flaws or retreat entirely. By maintaining consistent detachment, you regain power over your emotional state and free yourself from the cycle of narcissistic abuse. Imagine this. You're caught in another emotional tug-of-war with a narcissist: constant gaslighting, manipulation, and confusion. You know their game, but what can you do to stop it? The truth is, the most powerful weapon you have is your presence. Not your words, not your explanation. Just the simple act of choosing to withdraw. And there's one phrase that will disrupt their entire emotional control over you: "I'm not available for this conversation." At first glance, this sentence may seem too simple, too passive, but in reality, it is one of the most powerful boundary-setting tools you can use. Why? Because it taps into one of the narcissist's deepest fears: abandonment. The narcissist's identity is built on their need for control, validation, and psychological dominance. When you engage in their manipulation, whether it's through arguments, emotional outbursts, or constant validation seeking, you feed their ego and confirm their delusional sense of power. But when you refuse to engage, When you stand your ground and say, "I'm not available for this conversation," you disrupt their entire psychological foundation. Why does this phrase hit so hard? Because for a narcissist, control is everything. They cannot bear the thought of being ignored, abandoned, or rendered irrelevant. To them, silence is psychological death. It forces them to confront their internal emptiness, the chaos that they desperately avoid. And when you withdraw your emotional energy, you immediately render them powerless. They cannot manipulate you into reacting. They cannot draw you back into their web of confusion. They are forced to confront the cold, hard truth of their own emotional instability. And that is their worst fear, facing their own emptiness without the distractions of control or validation. The beauty of this sentence is that it is simple but incredibly powerful. It doesn't engage in a battle of wills. It doesn't require an explanation. All it does is close the door on their manipulation and make them realize that you are no longer available to feed their emotional needs. When you consistently use this strategy, the narcissist will escalate their tactics. They will try to manipulate you into feeling guilty, or worse, they might attempt to draw you back into their narrative with threats or promises. But this escalation only confirms one thing: you are winning. By withdrawing your emotional energy, you take control of the situation. You refuse to be an emotional punching bag. You let them know that their manipulation will not work anymore, and that is exactly what they fear. You are no longer their emotional supply, and that in itself is the most powerful weapon in your arsenal. The long-term effect of boundaries. Once you begin implementing boundaries, especially in the face of narcissistic manipulation, something profound starts to happen. Not just in your relationships, but within yourself. The consistent use of boundaries, the refusal to engage in their psychological games, begins a deep process of transformation. This is what Carl Jung referred to as individuation, the process of becoming your true, authentic self by reclaiming parts of you that were lost to external influences. And this is where your power lies. By standing firm in your boundaries, you stop allowing others, especially narcissists, to dictate how you feel or how you react. Each time you say, "I'm not available for this conversation," or refuse to engage in their emotional manipulation, you affirm your own psychological sovereignty. This is not just about resisting manipulation, it's about reclaiming the parts of you that were once entangled in their toxic behavior. At first, this may feel like a struggle. The narcissist will likely escalate their tactics, throwing guilt trips, threats, or emotional attacks your way. But here's the truth: their tactics are weak without your participation. Narcissists rely on emotional reactions to maintain their control. When you stop feeding into that, they begin to lose their power over you. This is where your psychological individuation takes place. With each boundary you maintain, you build emotional resilience. You stop allowing their chaos to disturb your inner peace. And as you do, you begin to reclaim your authentic self. No longer reacting to the roles they've tried to cast you in, no longer playing the victim or the enabler. You are becoming whole, and with that wholeness comes power. The narcissist, on the other hand, faces an existential crisis. Without their ability to manipulate you, they are forced to confront the emptiness within themselves, the very thing they've spent their entire life avoiding. They will continue to try new ways to entangle you, but as you stay firm in your boundaries, you'll notice something. Their influence over you begins to fade. They lose their power, and you gain yours. This process is ultimately transformative. The more you assert your boundaries and detach emotionally, the more you move toward a life free from manipulation and external validation. You step into a place of emotional independence where the narcissist no longer has a hold on your sense of self. You are no longer entangled in their web, and in this space, you find peace. true freedom. As the narcissist's ability to manipulate fades, you become more and more immune to their tactics. The psychological fog lifts, and you stand firm in your authenticity. This is the ultimate transformation. You reclaim control over your emotional world, and the manipulator loses their ability to psychologically entangle you. You've broken free. Achieving psychological freedom. When you begin to detach from narcissistic manipulation, something powerful starts to shift within you. It's like a veil lifting from your mind. Suddenly, you can see clearly. You're no longer clouded by the chaos that narcissists create in your life. Instead, you begin to reclaim the psychological freedom that has always been yours, but was hidden under layers of manipulation, guilt, and confusion. This freedom is not just a temporary escape. It is a permanent transformation of your inner world. As you continue to assert boundaries and practice emotional detachment, something beautiful happens. You become unshakable. No longer swayed by the narcissist's need for control or validation, you stand firm in your own truth. You develop an emotional strength that is immune to their tactics. This strength isn't about confrontation or trying to prove your worth. It's about silently withdrawing your emotional energy and reclaiming your psychological sovereignty. This is the foundation of true personal power. Through the process of individuation, as Jung described, you become whole. You no longer need the narcissist's approval, their affection, or their validation. You are no longer trying to fit into their game or please them. Instead, you stand confidently as yourself, authentic, self-sufficient, and psychologically unavailable to their manipulations. This concept of being psychologically unavailable is profound. It means that you are no longer emotionally dependent on the narcissist or anyone else for your sense of self-worth. You don't rely on external validation to feel validated or loved. Instead, you draw from your inner wellspring of self-respect and self-love. You are no longer swayed by emotional outbursts or attempts at manipulation. The narcissist's control is weakened because they can't get to you anymore. Psychological freedom is the ultimate liberation. It's the ability to walk through life without being controlled by others' emotional needs, manipulations, or projections. You regain control of your mind, your emotions, and your sense of self. No longer a victim, you become the master of your emotional state and your life's direction. Adopting these practices, detachment, boundary setting, and individuation, gives you true freedom. It frees you from toxic relationships and destructive dynamics. It allows you to create a life in which your emotional well-being isn't determined by the whims of others. Now is the time to take control. By freeing yourself from the grip of narcissistic manipulation, you unlock the power to live authentically and fully. You become unshakable. As we've explored today, the combined wisdom of Schopenhauer and Jung offers a path to freedom from the toxic, manipulative forces that plague our relationships. Schopenhauer's philosophical insight into the biological nature of attraction and the manipulation of the ego, paired with Jung's profound teachings on conscious detachment and individuation, provide the tools needed to break free from the shackles of narcissistic control. By understanding and applying these insights, you gain the ability to disconnect emotionally, regain your psychological sovereignty, and reclaim your life from those who seek to manipulate and control. Now, I invite you to pause and reflect. What patterns have you noticed in your relationships? Are you allowing toxic individuals to project their inner chaos onto you? Or are you creating firm boundaries that protect your emotional energy? This is your opportunity to make conscious decisions about the dynamics in your life. You don't have to be a passive participant in destructive relationships. Instead, take control by implementing the boundaries and detachment techniques we've discussed today. I encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Have you ever experienced narcissistic manipulation? And how did you break free from it? What steps have you taken to create healthier, more empowering relationships? Your insights could inspire and empower others on their own journeys to emotional freedom. The transformation you can achieve through understanding and applying the power of detachment and boundaries is truly life-changing. It's a path to authenticity, emotional independence, and psychological resilience. When you stop seeking validation from others and instead rely on your inner strength, you begin to live a life where you are unshakable, untouchable, and completely in control of your own narrative. Take these teachings with you. Begin the process of self-liberation today. The power is within you.